You are now tuned in to the OSINTCurious Podcast.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of OSINTCurious's webinar. I'm your host for this week, Micah Hoffman, and I'm here with Nico.
Hi, that's OSINT guy here.
Cool. And we are so thrilled to be able to actually offer this up to the community that you can attend our webinars in person now. We have our first attendee now. I'm not going to call you out, not going to mention your name or anything like that, but thank you so much to our first attendee. And in the future, if people have questions or they want to just, see us do this and mess around live here, then you're absolutely welcome to participate. So that's one of the first things to note this week. Also, we have been working really hard on, or I've been working on really hard on these 10-minute tips. Nico, have you had the chance to see any of these?
Yeah, well, I looked at, I think, almost every single one of them. You made 4, right? I've seen 3. And, well, I really liked it. It's just a good 10-minute chunk of OSINT, I think. And 10 minutes is just about the right amount of time.
Yeah. So actually right now, I was a little bit overachieving yesterday. There's 7 videos in this playlist. So if you go to our OSINTCurious website, we have 10-minute tips section over here. And here's all of the different 10-minute tips that we've got currently in our channel. Plus, you can click over here to just go right to the playlist. The playlist is here, and here's all the other videos in there. So we're trying to make OSINT easy to learn. We're trying to create this video library of 10-minute clips. And I think the feedback that I've gotten so far is that it's pretty cool. People like that bite-sized amount of OSINT, and then they can go off and do their work, and they're kind of using it more as reference material. Just excellent.
Yeah. I really liked the one about the ad blockers, the comparison between the ad blockers you made.
Yeah.
And the difference it was for me, it was a real eye-opener.
Yeah, so I did that at work one time just to show people, one, how to use developer tools. The thing that Nico's talking about is this one over here, are ad blockers equally effective? This video here, I used the developer tools within, I think it was Google Chrome, maybe Firefox, to show that, hey, this is how many requests the web browser is making and how many megabytes worth of data it's pulling down, with each of, I think, 4 different ad blockers enabled individually. Now, of course, there may be some overlap there. So if you do, AdBlock Plus and Ghostery, you could achieve more blocking or whatever. But yeah, it's just kind of a neat, interesting measure of how to do it. And it's also a peek to see how you can check out that traffic as well. You don't need, special tools or anything. It's all built right into your web browser. So cool.
Yeah, really good stuff. People should check them out. Yeah, the 10-minute tips. And probably some of the rest of us will make some 10-minute tips in the future too.
Oh,
That's
absolutely.
Just being hyperactive, like always, which we like.
Yeah, I made some extra time this week to stock a bunch in there because I knew next week I was going to be at the OSINT Summit, or this coming week I was going to be at the OSINT Summit and teaching, so wouldn't have that much chance to go ahead and make them. So cool. All right. Anything else you want to say, or shall we get right into news from around the world?
Let's get into the news.
Let's do it. All right. So one of the first things that you put into our little show document was this Pine Tools thing. What is this?
I think initially I found it via Zector 035 because he used it for some of his research, but I was looking into this site and I was like, this can be really handy for just that quick and dirty word you want to toggle with. You can do reverse listing, you can do count lines, find and replace text, stuff you can do basically within text editors, but sometimes it's just handy. You can do it all in browser. But it has things for colors, mathematics, text and lists, date and time juggling, differences between date and time, timers. For images, it has some really good stuff to lighten an image, or say you want to change some contrast on it, or flip the image. And these are really basic things you might want to do when conducting OSINT research. You might want to flip an image. You might want to correct the colors just to see that little corner up in the right. You can do so much things with this website, pinetools.com, and you can do base 46 decoding. You can corrupt a randomly file. So I don't know why you want to do it, but you can. You can split files, join files. It has some little tools which might just be fun to have just to grab on a single website. It's an all-in-one, just come across a handy tool for certain specific things.
Well, and it looks neat. It's got that one-stop shop of all these different things that we might use 5 or 6 different tools or websites to do all in one place. Not sure who owns or runs this, so our standard caveat is, use third-party tools and websites for your OSINT investigations at your own risk. It's just something, like you said, it's a neat resource to be out there.
Yeah. So
what about this? I saw this. Yeah, the Facebook graphs. Now, Facebook's been doing some things with their graphs. I saw Kirby talk about this. I saw some other people on Twitter say that searches are acting a little bit weird. What is this little chart here?
Well, this is directly from that discussion, I think. Paul Myers, BBC journalist, but also someone who is really good at the Facebook graph search, which a lot of people who conduct OSINT research use most of the time to find juicy stuff on people, subjects, whatever you want to look up on Facebook. But Facebook has been messing around with the graph search options. Probably people think because of their integrating WhatsApp and Instagram all in one. Right. So maybe that's it. We're not sure. But he made a awesome, I think it's just an Excel matrix of which allowed intersect searches there still are. By the intersect searches, I mean you can kind of quote unquote manipulate the URL string by doing the integers and intersects manipulating with people, Facebook ID number, who live in ID number of New York, for instance. And those kind of searches are all in here. And he pointed out which one are still working, which one are broke, and which one are like sort of working, all in one matrix. So it's really handy once for those who really know how to do graph searches by manipulating the URL.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting, this bottom part here, which I don't know if you can see. It says, note, no intersects are currently allowed with religious and political views. It's like, I wonder. And the thing that we've noted in the past with Facebook and other social media doing these changes is, you never know whether this is just this week's change to do the integration and then the functionality will be back, or whether this is a longer term type of, you're not going to be able to do these types of graph searches anymore. We'll just have to wait and see.
Should be fun if Facebook is listening to this podcast. Can you guys please be a little bit more transparent on why and when you turn off things? It would make our life a lot easier.
Could you maybe check with Nico before actually making the changes? I mean, that would be really considerate, Facebook.
Would be so cool.
So as always, the links to everything that we're talking about, for those of you that are listening in the podcast format, the links are going to be on the show notes, and that's on our OSINTCurious webpage as well. Moving on to the next link, we've got NATO group catfish soldiers. To prove a point about privacy. What's this one?
And don't know if you read this article, but I was
No.
like, I found it really interesting and funny. Just it was kind of a huge red teaming action on the military by trying to lure them into specific social media profiles, websites, and groups, just to try and manipulate them through the internet and social media during warfare. And I found it was interesting to see that NATO does do this kind of awareness, red teaming thing for the military. But I also was really interested to read in how kind of easy it is to get soldiers to trick into this kind of things and fall for these things.
Yeah. Hang on one sec.
And this is why I think as an OSINT researcher, you always must be aware, because you can fall into, let's say, this red teaming action. For instance, if you are looking into the subjects these soldiers were looking into, maybe you have been fallen for this NATO red teaming action. So it's always a good thing to check, cross-check, double-check your OSINT findings.
Yeah, I just saw another thing pop up about Russia forbidding its soldiers to even have smartphones now. It was that they forbid their soldiers from using social media because they were taking the selfies of themselves in front of the ship that wasn't supposed to be in the place where the ship was, and it was really easy to look at landmarks and figure that out. But now they've gone a step further, and I did see something. I'll try to dig up the URL where they just said, and not even no social media, no smartphones at all. And I was
it's basically due to all the Bellingcat research, right?
Yeah, it very well could be. It very well could be. So, yeah, I mean, but, Michael Basil. Hey, Ginsberg, how you doing? You are muted right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hang on one sec. Let me unmute you. Oop.
Unmute me now.
Yeah, we've got sound.
All right, sorry, it's all bad stuff, but please go on about what you're talking about.
Oh, cool. Michael Basil was talking about how he, Ginsberg, you made me lose my train of thought, man. Old guy syndrome over here. All right, well, let's move on. Let's move on. Yeah. Now, what is this Liam Neeson stuff here, Nico?
Well, it was just, I made a tweet on how to find a person's face. And I just wanted to go back to the basics of how to use Google. And I was kind of amazed how many people liked this tip from me, because I was just like, this is like the basic stuff, right? So what I did, I just wanted to point out, when you look for a certain person and you know that person's name, first name, last name, or both, or last name, birthday, or something like that in a combination, you can do within Google, you can type in that name or that indicators, then click on the images filter and then do face, because you want to see the picture of someone's face. It's just an option within Google.
All right.
And when you can even try and narrow it down even more when you have a picture taken within the last year or within the last month. You can also do a time frame label. So
that is really
just
cool.
Using the tools and more tools within Google. Google has really nice filter options. So this is one of them, and people should and I think people forget about them, because most of these filter options won't work in most mobile Chrome versions of the Chrome browser.
And just so that people are clear, so when you do the search, like I just searched for our buddy Kirby, when you do that and you switch over to the images tab, there aren't those extra settings here. You do have to hit the tools, and that tools, I guess, second level contextual menu, it will change depending on what tab you're in. So if you're in all and you hit the tools, then it does more things about what date and where you want that search to be. News will sometimes give you like the regions and stuff like that. So for images, that's what you're talking about. Google searching for somebody and then coming over here to type and looking for face, and boom, there she is. Nice.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
It's just a quick way to narrow things more down, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
So a back to basics tips that was.
Definitely. Thanks. Let's see. So okay, so we have a question. Let's we'll handle the questions in just a second. Let's go ahead and get through some of well, actually we're kind of done. Let's see. So that's that. We wanted to talk about the OSINTCurious 10-minute tips, which we did. And then one thing that I'm interested in this week is this Open Source Intelligence Summit, which is our first ever OSINT Summit. SANS is sponsoring it, which we're very thankful for. We also are very thankful that SANS has given us some sponsorship money so that we can do this webinar format for our OSINTCurious webcasts. So, we have Kirby talking, we have Josh Huff, who's also on the OSINTCurious project, David Westcott, Turbush. So we have a whole bunch of, and look at that. We even have this guy named Ginsberg 5150. Hey, wait,
Maybe
your name is Ginsberg 5150.
it's my evil cousin. No, yeah, I'm already here. Like I had to deal with plane rides and getting hotel rooms and doing all that stuff. I'm adulting all over the hell today. So yeah, I'm here. I talk.
That's very cool. So what is your talk about? I'm not going to read this whole thing. Tell me, what's it about?
Originally, I kind of started giving a talk last year. I started looking at how many places people were willingly, passively giving up their information, especially their phone number. A lot of, marketing, rewards programs, things like restaurant reservations, and they were just actively giving out their telephone numbers. And your phone number is now really the key to almost all your digital online kind of life and stuff like that. So that got me thinking about what other passive sources of information that you can go through and get from not social engineering, not trying to brute force any systems or anything else like that, but just in regards to walking around everyday life, what systems could you go through and obtain, and then what could you use those things for in regards to a blackmail, ransomware style attack, whatever. So if you were really trying to weaponize OSINT just in the information gathering phase, whatever, what does that look like? And we get a little bit into it just because we only have half an hour, so I'll drop some fun stuff. But yeah, it's been a project I've been working on since October at least, and I plan to go until at least this next October. So I'm going to do a whole year of kind of how this works out, and over time what develops from that stuff. So
very cool, man. I look forward to your talk.
So
yeah,
yes. Yeah,
cool.
It should be good.
I'm bummed out that I'm there. Sorry.
What did you do?
I'm just bummed out that I'm not there. I wanted
just
to be
come
at
on.
some. Yeah,
just come on.
Come
on over.
I'll be myself. I'll be myself out.
All right, good. I just make sure.
Cool. Well, so I'm looking forward to that. We're going to take those talks, and I think we're going to be putting them on YouTube. So watch out for those. I'm sure we'll talk about them once we get started. We do have a question here from one of our attendees. And they say, if you have a moment to address a backlink analysis, in the last week in OSINT Sector 035 touched on the topic of the demise of Google's link operator and of our elusive search ever since for a satisfying backlink analysis tool. Now, OpenLink Profiler was something that was mentioned, and I did try that out, and it seemed to be pretty good. So it's good for an entire domain. The question goes on, but not great for individual web pages. The person used Majestic back in the days and plenty of other tools that are gone. So Nico Ginsberg, do you have any suggestions for backlink analysis searching within the major search engines?
I used to use, I think it's from ahrefs.com or something. It was really basic backlink checker. I don't even know if it works, but that worked. But to be honest, This is not my subject matter or field where I work in, so I don't know anything in depth on it.
I'm in the same boat. I usually don't do that kind of stuff. Ginsburg?
Yeah, I was kind of going to say the same thing. I'd be happy to go into a little bit more, but right now I don't have anything off the top of my head that people will be able to go through and really use. That's tough. I apologize. I feel like we let somebody down.
Well, it's an opportunity for us to blog.
That's true. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think, and knowledge is always something that where I think we're curious about. So yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the backlinking is also kind of a field of people who do the CEO kind of stuff.
Right.
They are really good at it. So probably you have good CEO sources. Maybe they have good websites or tips. Well, I'll look into it because now you've got my interest. And now I know. I just pointed out I don't know shit about backlink. I don't know ish about backlink. So now I need to know, and I need to dig in and do my own work.
So for those of you that are listening on the phone or on the podcast, Nico was talking about SEO or search engine optimization. One of the things that Nico, myself, Ginsburg, and some other people have been talking about lately is how much advertising, marketing team essentially have access to a huge amount of data. Much of it is non-public data, so it's not open source intelligence, but we've been talking about this a lot in our private chats, that a lot of the open source intelligence that we use is not open source. I mean, for instance, the Facebook graph searches that we talked about earlier, right? I mean, sometimes people's profiles are open, like Zuckerberg's, user ID 4, that's open to the world. You don't need a Facebook account. For most of the other social media stuff that you have to do, you need a login. So it's not open source. We're gonna take a look at some of this stuff, and I've put it down in my notes. We'll maybe see about coming up with a tip for this. Maybe we can dive into the world of marketing and advertising and see what kind of tools they're using. Okay.
Yeah, that actually one thing that I will I don't want to say spoiler alert or something, but one thing that in some of the research that I've been doing for like breach data and things like that, however, are one thing, and they're not really open source, but they are because they're being published and you can get to them through pastebin sites and things like that, however, but it's where do you draw the line open source? If you have operations to Tor and stuff like that, is that open source or is that a blockade? But regardless of what defines open source and not, when I was looking at some of the medical stuff for medical breaches and medical history, I also looked at some of the other stuff on the other side of that as marketing and operational data that they get back from their from their devices. Some of their stuff is IoT devices. Some of their stuff is genetics testing and things like that. And there are some scary kind of possibilities on that side of things where they're collecting data. Like I know there was somebody who, and I don't know this person personally, I think this was on Twitter, and this was a conversation that was had about telematics and privacy. There was somebody who was talking about getting a CPAP, which is a device that you wear on your face to help with sleep apnea and things like that. And it was calling back to the product owner's home. And because the gentleman wasn't wearing it the recommended amount of time that the doctor had prescribed it to, they turned off the ability for the insurance to go through and pay for that, and it was all out of pocket. So unbeknownst to the person, yes. Yeah. So the doctor prescribed it. It was like 70% of the time you're sleeping, you must be going through and using this. And it found out that after the insurance had kicked him off of it, they said, well, you're only using it 40% of the time. They're like, how the fuck do you know that? So another thing on top of that was with this Ancestry.com, 23andMe, things like that, they're discovering, and marketable data to go through and show, if your family has a history of congenital health defects, heart disease, things like that, however. So think about it like this. If you are an insurance agent underwriting a procedure for someone to go through and get a heart replacement, but your lineage has health problems in the heart, and maybe they say that your life expectancy or the estimated value of your life or whatever is 56 years old, and you're at 48. Is it worth it for them to continue to go through and underwrite the process for you to get a new heart, kidney, lung, whatever it is, because of pre-existing existing genetic data and stuff like that. So
interesting. So it's
that
almost like
type of
it's almost like customized actuarial data about you will
Yep.
come up instead of asking you questions like, has anybody in your family ever had glaucoma, or anybody in your family ever had cancer? They can just look at those markers that are in your brother, sister, cousin's DNA that they submitted and make their own decision.
And with enough people that are linked to you, which I've not done the 23andMe or ancestry stuff, but people have done it and said you have so many relatives in so many different regions and things like that. Painting a wide swath from your genetic comb, you know, your ancestry might give them at least court actionable, you know, I want to say intelligence, but you know, at least the ability to go through and say, hey, listen, you know, 20% of your kin have this and this and this, and so we don't feel comfortable covering this. Or quite the opposite, you know, you live this way, so we'll extend your premiums and whatever it is. So it's that type of like weird kind of actionable medical data, because when I originally started looking at it, I was like, oh yeah, there was another story from Oklahoma, which unbeknownst to me has a really high rate of HIV/AIDS. And there was a position out in Norman, Oklahoma, where there was a person, her whole job was just educating and doing tests to go through and see and any sort of preventative maintenance. Well, the town looked at it with such disdain that the position had to go away because no one was going in, no one was using the services. And the reason being is because even if you were going into that building, the idea was just because you were there, you automatically had the disease. So passive intelligence or through recon or surveillance or anything, if you were to go through and take a picture of somebody who is going to be in that town or posting on social media or something else like that, and they said, oh, Joe somebody's going into this building, they've got the AIDS, you know, so it's one of those things that it's difficult to go through and to say what is an actual actionable, you know, passive threat. But the more the people have smartphones, the more the people have, you know, the ability to go through and research this stuff. It's things like that say, you know, it's easier to just make this go away. Why don't you just pay me 7 Bitcoins or whatever it is worth now and just have that go? But it's interesting. So, I don't know.
Yeah, it very much is interesting, and it'll be, I mean, the privacy laws of some countries help protect their citizens. Unfortunately, here in the United States, as we've talked about before, we do not enjoy such privacy for our genetic code and all. And one of our listeners does bring up a good point, you know, that you used to be able to do somewhat of an anonymous submission to 23andMe. I'm looking at their site right now, and I do not see, let's see. I do see some people asking the question, and it says, yeah, you know, you don't have to identify yourself. But the reality is that our genetic material, even if I submitted it anonymously, if my brother, sister, cousin, aunt, uncle has submitted theirs non-anonymously, then the genetic markers in my anonymous will match up fairly well with theirs, and they'll be able to determine, hey, this is a person that's related to another person. They might not be able to get my name out of it or my generation, but they can get de-anonymize that information.
They might be able to get generational information about it. If you think about it this way, if your father and mother are together, you have siblings, and then your father or your mother remarries or something else like that, and then they can do it on a scale. In skip tracing, we call it first, second, and third degree relatives.
Okay. So
then it'll go through and do something to the point where, you know, you share 50% with this person, but you share 27 to 30% with this person. So it's a you know, higher kinship match kind of thing.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Ginsberg, for that detailed insight and stuff. And we'll I'm sure going to be talking more about this as these privacy types of issues come into play. And always, I always highly suggest people listen to Michael Bazel's podcast, which is privacy, security, and OSINT. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, he just added the OSINT.
Yep. Cool. Now, we totally missed this one. Nico, thank you so much for bringing this up. What is this? This person does not exist.com website. What is this for?
Well, this is just the deep fake discussion of the week, I think.
Deep fake, I like it.
It's automatically generated face pictures by just computing power. And well, some of them look like really good, but some of them look so crazy, almost scary crazy. But it's just to point out how easy it is nowadays to let the computer generate on-face picture right in front of you, which, well, if no one told you this was fake, you might think, well, the guy has weird teeth or weird eyes, or it's sometimes weird asymmetrical, but still with some extra editing, maybe when you look at certain pictures, people will buy it as a real person. And I think in the near future, this can only get better and scarier. And with this, I think we have come to a point that it's becoming almost impossible to, at first glance, judge if a picture is fake or not. And
except for this one. This one's neat because if you look at the person, the reflection in the sunglasses is of a person sitting on a couch. Over here, we have a person sitting on a couch and somebody else, but they are clearly outside here, and you see how this is all garbled around here.
I thought it was a landfill at first. I was like, what is behind?
Well, one of the things I was trying to do, there's a really good, let me see if I can pull it up. There's a really good discussion by the conspirador Norteño. He's the person that talks about Twitter bots, and he tweeted out this week that if you do 5,000 sample faces from this service, what you see is that the eyes, the nose, and the mouth are very much in the exact same location, and it creates this kind of aggregate image. You can see it's very, very, very unique here. Whereas if you look at just a random sampling of pictures, we see this kind of blurring with eyes being all over the place, noses and all, to create more of a random type of look. So we'll put this in the show notes too, because I think how do I detect if I have one of these types of pictures is going to be very important. In previous versions of this, you used to look for like defects, like teeth that were weird, or ears that were not matching, or weirdness around the eyebrows and stuff. But I've been flipping through a bunch of these, and I mean, I haven't seen anything in the last 20, 30 images. You can
still see the ears and like the jawline are usually like kind of cut, and like this one's okay, whatever. But like you almost in on some of them. Yeah. Ears, for whatever reason, are really tough. Yeah, you can see this one's kind of melting, like with the hats and the top of the stuff. Yeah, you see that spot right there with it. There's like I don't even know a blur or something. Yeah. I mean.
Yeah. But still, when you look at this, a picture of a kid, I think it's really disturbing that computers can generate pictures of kids with all.
If you look at this one right here, whatever. Sorry, Nico, I apologize.
No problem.
If you look at this one, look at the teeth. You got one vampire tooth, and then you've got, yeah. It's just that level of detail that you almost, because when you look at the whole, it's fine, but then you have to almost go.
Yeah, and the ear's a little bit messed up over here, and this eye looks a little bit off with that, and the chin. Yeah, but I mean, that's the thing is you're going to have to really start looking at these pictures more. It's almost like the deepfake videos, right? Where you really have to analyze those images to make sure that Obama's actually saying what Obama is saying versus what Jordan Peele was talking about and doing that. And I think this technology is going to get better and better, and we're going to have a hard time figuring out, is that a real person? The OSINT implication of this, of course, is if you're making a sock puppet or one of those false personas in order to get onto Facebook or Weibo or VK or whatever, and they say, you need to give us a picture of your face. Well, if you just cut out a face from random model or random picture on the Google Images or whatever, And many times the social media platform will say, we need a picture of you. We already know about this picture. And then your profile is automatically flagged as something that is possibly suspicious. So here you have a novel face that has theoretically never been seen before. You could take this, put it up there and say, oh, look, here you go. This is me. Mm-hmm. And I would imagine that you could download enough of these that are good quality, maybe do some post-processing of these, and have yourself your own offline repository of those good, never seen before stock photos. I would really wonder if any of these have ever been seen before. You know, we've just been cycling through these. I wonder if, you know, you do this 1,000 times or 5,000 times like Conspirator Norteño did, if you actually start getting repeats.
What I did, since I have no life because OSINT is my life, I think I've done around, let's say, 500-600 pictures of these, and each time a new one got generated, I reverse image search them just to check if there is some kind of baseline in it. And there were a few pictures which came up. It was an Asiatic-looking guy which came up. So probably those are pictures who are in those 5,000 database, probably AI Jing or baseline model. But it was really funny to see when you do, like, let's say 2 hours of these, and each time a new picture is generated, reverse image search with, let's say, a nice add-on or extension you can have a quick glance if you can look for the similarities. And I noticed there were a few faces which came back time after time.
Okay.
So still, it was generated, but there was kind of a pattern in it. But no hard proof, just me having fun, trying to look up.
I mean, but that
being
also
curious.
Being curious. That's right. Now, let me ask you this: did you Python that, or just by hand spend
just
hours?
By hand.
Wow.
Yeah. I just wanted to look them up with my own eyes and judge them, not having computers judge computer-generated stuff. I always fall back on old school manual stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because if you have a manual, you actually can see the variations, or at least until you start seeing the patterns and stuff. We've talked before about using Python to streamline things. The place for optimization is after you've figured out what those differences are, after you figured out what you're looking for, or if you're analyzing a large sample size to do the kind of math or whittle things down. So, cool. All right. Any other?
One last thing.
Yeah.
So the two things. Whatever. One, there was a video that somebody put out, and it was Jennifer Lawrence, and they had the Jennifer Lawrence video going, and then at the same time they had Jennifer Lawrence's body, and then they had Steve Buscemi, his face on her, and it was spot on for what she was saying. So the mouth mimicry and everything, whatever, was going really, really well. And they put it side by side so you can see. It was very funny, but also kind of scary because of Steve Buscemi.
Right.
And then the second thing is I wanted to ask Dutch, you had tweeted earlier today, I think it was, about the Chrome extension, Firefox extension for reverse image lookup stuff. Did you utilize that when looking up these, or was that before you knew about that?
No, I utilized that one, and I also utilized RevEye. That's a Chrome extension that basically does the same. But this one was the last one I tweeted out today. Is more for me. It's more handy because it also looks up Yandex, and in my opinion, Yandex always is better when it comes to reverse image searching faces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here, for those of you that are watching the webcast, this is what Nico tweeted out: usacyborg.com/fast image research. There's a Firefox extension and a Chrome extension, and yeah, cool.
Yeah, it looked good. I was actually, when I got onto the plane, I saw that you tweeted that, and I was like, I have no way to look at that right now, but that looks pretty cool. Not the pictures below.
That's why I didn't scroll down.
See?
Yep.
Yeah. I don't even know who that person is. Is that, what's her name? The cat daddy lady, or I don't know. but no, it's not.
Rita Ora.
Someone else.
She's a pop star, it says.
Yeah.
25-year-old.
I thought it was, who was that? It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Kate Min. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Cool. All right. Any other news from this week? No. All right. So I have to say, with the OSINT Summit coming up and some other priorities in my life, I've not prepared any skills to present, but we do have the 10-minute tips that we've been doing. So those are out there. Nico Ginsberg, do either of you feel like, showing how to do something real quick, or do you want to just pass this time and we'll do it again in 2 weeks?
Dutch, did you have something? So, like, I started reading that Hack the World with OSINT.
Yeah.
I don't feel comfortable enough in doing this. The
Census dorking.
Census, yeah, the census dorking, but it's super interesting. Being able to go through and use that kind of like Shodan, because I think a couple episodes back I was saying how I was using Shodan to go through and kind of identify people who had hacked UPnP, Universal Plug and Play, like Chromecast stuff, because they were putting their own kind of banner over it, hacked by Hackster Girl and things like that or whatever. So I've been using Shodan to go through and do some more search engine-y type stuff. And there was a GitHub page that I found for Shodan dorks, but I'm super interested in the census dorks as well. Nico, did you have anything that you can do for that stuff or not?
No, well, I can do stuff, but I reached out to the writer of the book, Chris Kubeka, and currently she's not able to make it to the webcast, but in the near future she will, and she will probably show us a few of those nice census dorks she writes on in her book. And, well, she wrote a whole book on it, so who am I to give you guys a demo if she's willing to do it, right?
Yeah, that's a good idea. And, and using Shodan too, one of the things that I've noticed is, and I will admit, I don't get too deep into Shodan just because of other things going on, but Shodan, if the more you use their search directives, the better quality results. Very simple things is, typing in there, and again, my suggestion is to register for a free account, or pay them the $20 for their lifetime account, because then you have access to more filters and stuff. But just typing in like a domain versus hostname : domain, you get like 3 times the results coming back. So don't use census.io and don't use Shodan as your normal search engines. Look into those directives either through the Chris Kubeka book or through some online tips. I know that Sans does some Shodan dorking. I know that there's a huge amount. I mean, there are books on Shodan dorking as well. And for those of you that don't know, a dork is just a known string. So hostname : something and port whatever. That precompiled string there where you just insert a domain name. That's what we're calling dorks. And cool. All right. Well, if there's no skill, which is absolutely cool, how about if we go ahead and wrap this thing up? All right.
Wait, did you just say we don't have any skills? Like, you just calling us? That's rude.
Well, I'm gonna let that
I'm just
go.
gonna.
I got no response to that.
Right.
Yes, we have no skills. Yes.
I'm gonna go back to Kansas City and not be in your OSINT summit now.
Excellent. I've got your slides. I'll just present them. It's all right.
Why do I always get kicked out of stuff?
You kicked yourself out of it, dude. All right. Well, we've been the OSINTCurious group. Ginsberg, any shout outs, any goodbyes?
Yeah, OSINT, the Sans OSINT summits, look for those videos. If you are interested and you're in Kansas City, come check us out at B-Sides Kansas City. I'll be running the OSINT Village and the OSINT Workshop. It's sold out, which shocks me, but that's awesome. We're doing classes. There may be a waiting list, but I don't know how the organizers are going to go and do that stuff. But that was super humbling and kind of awesome that like sold out in less than 8 hours. So I was like, what? Okay.
Well done, sir. Well done.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was fun.
Nico? Last words?
No specific shout outs. I hope you all have fun at the OSINT Summit. And I hope to join you next year there, maybe, perhaps.
Or we can do something over in Amsterdam in May.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think people have been talking about stuff like that.
Yeah, we are discussing and talking about doing a Dutch OSINT Con, but it's a little premature, but it will happen eventually, I promise.
It's really nice that you named it after yourself, too. I really
yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah, I'm just a shy guy, I know.
Actually, I think it's called Dutch OSINT Technozeticon or something like that.
We're just trying.
Yeah.
DOT-Con. Okay, yeah, I can get behind that.
Yeah, get a whole bunch of truckers there or something like that. Department of Transportation.
Yeah, right.
Well, I've been one of your hosts here. My name is Micah Hoffman. Thank you so much for being on board. If you are at the OSINT Summit, I've got 2 different types of laptop or other stickers. I've got these square ones and then these die-cut ones to help you stay OSINT curious. Until next time, keep thinking, keep OSINTing, and keep being OSINT curious. Bye, everybody. And thanks to our audience too. Really appreciate the questions online. Thank you.
And Sam, thank you.
Next time, join.
Yes, definitely join. Cool.